For the past few weeks, I have been climbing duck chess elo ranking in a non-stop speedrun. And so far, we haven't lost even a single game from the very beginning to 1600 elo. But today, unlike the past videos where I only made a video of a single game, this week, we start at 1610, we will play all the way to 1625, and this recording will not stop before I have finally reached that elo. Expect 3 wins in a row. First game, we get a beginner from India. E4, duck on E5. There are a lot of beginners these days. It's pretty sad that chess.com decided that they should be playing someone with 100 points higher in ratings. E6. Okay, that should be his first mistake, because he allows me to develop my bishop. Not a big mistake though, more like an inaccuracy. Knight f6. E5, duck on d5. I'm using this duck to take away the d5 square from his knight. Now knight e4 is actually kinda forced. Indeed. d3, and since after d3, he pretty much only has knight c5, so of course no brainer. Duck on c5. Knight g5, I will have both f4 and h4 trapping the knight, and since he only has one duck, at most he can only prevent one of those two moves. Therefore, that knight is now officially dead. He left the game. That was very rude, not resigning, but instead he stalled me for 4 minutes. But anyway. New opponent. d4. d5, duck on e3. Well, I mean, even though the guy stalled me for 4 minutes, at the end of the day, a win is a win, so I guess if everyone can lose as quickly as he did, it will be absolutely convenient. f4. e6, duck on e3. Now I have officially opened up both of my bishops, and one duck cannot stop 2 bishops at the same time. Bishop d2. He is obviously trying to tell me that ducking on e3 doesn't stop his bishop from coming out. To be honest, fair point. Knight f6. And guess what? Same place regardless. I mean, where can that bishop go anyway? Bishop a5. Knight c6. Duck on e3. This was actually a misplay from me. The correct play was putting the duck on b4 and thus it physically traps his bishop, but unfortunately I didn't see that during the game. Bishop c3. That entire situation just showed me how easy it is for a bishop to get trapped in this variant. An absolutely valuable lesson. Knight e4. Duck on g3. I want to go queen h4, so duck on g3 is to prevent g3, and I mean, even though he still has knight f3, after all those moves he can finally unleash his bishop. I'm down to say he's about to go e3 now. Queen d3. Duck on d2 is a very strange decision, but I guess he just wants to keep that square for his knight to come out. Queen h4 check. Duck on g3. Queen f3. Bishop d6. Queen e3. Aha. At first glance you may think he is just making random moves with his queen. And you are probably right. But he is actually also baiting me to take his f-pawn. For example, if queen takes, he can take my queen for free and use the duck to block my bishop from recapture. Same thing applies if bishop takes. Duck chess is very tricky. I'll just develop a piece instead. Things are getting a bit too tricky for comfort. Even though I am obviously not a coward, I may have to consider pulling my queen back. Knight a3. Aha. That blunders a horsey. B takes a3. Knight takes c3. Duck on d3. Ha! I'm using his own poison against him. Queen f3. I'll pull my queen back, and I'll prevent his queen from coming back. Now there is physically no way he can defend his d-pawn. Rook c1. A very useful move. Queen takes d4. Resignation. 1622, only 3 points left and we get 1625, which means we only need to win this one more game. Aha! Finally, someone that is not a beginner. This game is definitely almost certainly going to be much harder than all the previous ones. e4. Aha! He is blocking himself so that I won't be able to put the duck on e2 again. The rules require that each player has to move the duck to a different square on their move, but what he doesn't know is that I have never wanted to put the duck on e2. e5, duck on d3 instead. Why put the duck on e2, when the duck on d3 can block both the bishop and the d-pawn? Queen f3. I can push my d-pawn now, but I think I may prefer knight c6. Knights are really strong here, as they are almost unaffected by the duck, so if he has already brought his queen out, I'll try to use my knights to take out his queen as fast as possible. Knight e2. Ha! I understand that he wants to use his knight to prevent my knight d5, but it turns out that knight also blocks away his queen's path back to safety. That was very convenient. d6. c4. Knight f6. Knight c3. Here we go. Bishop g4. Duck on g3. I'm basically forcing his queen to go to the center. And quite frankly, he doesn't really have that many choices. Queen d3. Knight b4. Duck on e3. His queen is trapped. Queen to b1. Wait. I actually didn't even see that move. Holy chess. For some very unknown reasons my Asian brain just physically refused to acknowledge that move. But anyway, knight d3 check, duck on c2. This is so funny. Now how can he even move all of these things out anyway? Resignation. I gained 13 points from this game, an absolutely massive increment. Duck chess speedrun. 600% win rate.